Hello, welcome to another video. My name's Fred and I am helping young men develop their masculinity, overcome things like the nice guy syndrome, premature ejaculation, just live healthier, more empowered lives. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, like the video and hit the bell notification icon. All right, in this video, I'm gonna go into what makes you a nice guy. Now, if you saw one of my other videos, you'll know that I set out 3 primary causes of nice guy syndrome. So there's the kind of cultural and societal conditioning, i.e. the stuff that's happened from 1960s onwards, which has kind of conditioned men to be a little bit more effeminate and not embody these kind of archaic stereotypes of masculinity. The other thing is the lack of healthy male role models, whether a boy's own father was a nice guy or his father was on the other end of the spectrum and really violent, abusive, or really stoic and cold, emotionless, just essentially absent, okay? It also doesn't just have to be the father figure, it can be any kind of male role model in the family, in the education system, on TV, etc. So those are 2 causes of nice guy syndrome: societal conditioning and lack of healthy role models. Now, the third and most significant cause is psychological development. At its core, being a nice guy is a result of a survival strategy which a boy puts in place in order to keep connection with his primary caregivers. Somewhere along the line, he got the belief that he isn't lovable as he inherently is. Therefore, in order to keep that emotional connection, he's going to try all he can to be someone else, to appease others, just so he can get that connection and his emotional needs met as a young little kid. So this is the primary cause: internalized toxic shame. That young boy feels ashamed for who he inherently is. He believes who he inherently is not okay, it's not lovable. So this internalized shame with this kind of cultural rhetoric from the 1960s onwards, with radical feminism, that all masculinity is bad, etc. Plus the absent fathers, the lack of healthy role models, just sets us up for this epidemic of nice guys. All right, now let's look into the psychological programming which is playing out. All right, firstly, there is this root desire to be perceived as good, to be perceived as lovable. This is effectively an unconscious attempt to control someone else's opinion or feelings towards you. Right? There's an attempt to seek their approval because how that person feels towards a nice guy is going to be how that nice guy feels towards himself. Now, you got to remember, nice guy syndrome is codependency. Codependency is characterized by how another person feels is how that person feels. They feel responsible for that other person's feeling. So again, this first stage is this root desire to be perceived as lovable, to be perceived as good. Okay, this attempt at controlling another person's opinion of you is coming from the second part of this psychological programming. That is, the root belief you are not lovable as you are, i.e. toxic shame. Okay, that is the authentic version of yourself is not good enough and is not worthy. And this core belief that you are not good as you are is coming from the dynamic you have with your primary caregivers, most likely your parents. Okay, somewhere or somehow, consistently, your needs weren't met, i.e. your emotions were punished, or you were emotionally neglected, or you were just shamed outright. And when this is happening consistently as a child, you believe the reasons why your needs weren't getting met is because you are inherently bad. And therefore this leads to this root wound of, I was not loved appropriately because of who I am, therefore I am bad. And finally, in believing that you are not lovable as you are, there arises the root fear, which is, if I show my true colors, if I show my authentic true self, I will be abandoned. Okay, so the root fear underlying this psychological program is, if I am myself, I will be abandoned. I am afraid to be abandoned. Now, of course, for the nice guy, this is how he operates in the world. He is desperate to get approval, validation from others, so he can gain a better sense of self-worth, but in doing so, he wears all these masks, he pretends to be someone else, okay, he appeases to others, he overgives, etc., etc. You can check out my other video where I go into detail as to how the nice guy syndrome shows up. But all of these symptoms are indicative of him actually not wanting to be abandoned, all right, by showing his true colors. It's indicative of him desperately needing to get other people to approve of him because of his toxic shame. He is unable to do that himself. All right, so I just want you to understand this psychological programming, how it's playing out, and how that this is actually the root of the dysfunction. So as much as there's this whole cultural aspect and the lack of male role models, this is deep ingrained psychology. And you guessed it, the way out of this is to heal these root fears, these root wounds, these root beliefs, okay? And to acknowledge what that root desire is to be loved, to get your needs met. And it all comes down to healing toxic shame. You need to correct the belief that who you are, your authentic self, is unlovable, all right? So you need to start affirming yourself. You need to do things which are aligned with your desires, okay, what make you strong, and to develop a healthy sense of self, to become secure in yourself. So you don't have to chameleon your way through life, that you can confront conflict, okay? You can face rejection and not let that be a reflection of yourself or your worth. And the even deeper you get into this, the more you can embrace your shadows, your darker sides, okay? The things which society deems bad, the things which you try and hide away from the outside world. But once you do that, you become a lot more whole and you'll try less to be someone you're not, okay, to appease others, and in doing so, losing all of your power. You can stand strong in your center and be like, hey, this is me, love me or leave me. I don't need to bend myself to fit your expectations of me. This is the core of an empowered, mature, masculine man. And this is basically the antithesis of a nice guy. I'm going to be interested to hear your stories in the comments, so please leave them below. And if you want help on this, if you've got any questions, don't be shy to reach out to me. I'm very happy to answer questions and hopefully give you some more video content on this whole thing, because at the end of the day, I've had to do this and it served me incredibly well, actually healing my toxic shame, developing a healthy relationship to myself, all right, and stepping into my power. I've done it. If I can do it, you can do it. Lastly, I hope you found the video helpful. And again, if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the like button. That helps the algorithm, and stay tuned for more content.